Welcome along to the Agegroup Multisport podcast with me, Richard Conway, a platform for Agegroup Multisport athletes to share their journeys into multisport, age group and beyond.
And I thought, I need a goal. So I was doing a bit of running, wasn't swimming, wasn't cycling, bit of running, bit of weights. And I thought, well, I need a target. And I'd always in the back of my mind, I don't know why, because I played all these other sports, individual sports, team sports. I always thought to myself, I want to do a triathlon. And I think this is a bit like people who think I'm going to do that one marathon or I'm going to, whatever. And I'd always been put off it by the thought of swimming. Yeah, because I could swim a bit, but not very far.
And that was this episode's guest, Ed Cross. And Ed got in touch, as most people do, through social media and said that if I was stuck for guests, which I always usually am, he would like to come on and share his story. And it was a great chat. We had a great chat. Really nice fella. He's done absolutely nearly everything there is to do in triathlon, and we'll get into that. Really enjoyed this one, so I hope you do too. That's coming up, and thank you for taking your time out to switch on our podcast and give us a listen. Much appreciated. If it's your first time here, I hope you enjoy it, and if you do like it, leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Please do leave us a review on our YouTube channel, AmpGB. And just spread the word out to your like-minded friends and tell them that we're here and we've got over 100 great stories to listen to. What a weekend it's been for triathlon. The World Triathlon Championships were taking place over in Spain, Torremolinos, which was the grand final for the elite, and exciting races, really exciting races. Also there was like thousands of age groupers taking part in sprint triathlon, standard triathlon. I think there was aquathon there and aquabike maybe. But yeah, loads of age groupers giving it their all on the same courses as the elite. But going back to the elite championships, it was the grand final, like I said, and the races didn't disappoint. Ladies' race, really tough swim. Cassandra Bograd was off course and had to be guided back into the pack by a jet ski, pretty much, because she was going to the wrong point, I think. And that made her dead last. And she made up, I think, 10 places on the swim second lap, because they had to get out and do an Australian exit, and it was pretty choppy to say the least, and she just went from strength to strength and won the race by a canter at the end of the day, to be fair. Beth Potter raced really well to get second, and the young French girl Emma Lombardi came third, and well deserved. But unfortunately, the British Triathlon Association put in a complaint which held up the results for a considerable amount of time. Not sure actually what the complaint was about, whether it was outside assistance by the jet ski or... I'm not sure. But it was upheld, and I think quite rightly Cassandra got to win that race, and also she was world champion overall. So she's been the best female athlete in that competition throughout the year. So she did the double, world champion and Olympic champion. So that was really good to see. And in the men's, more drama. Tough swim, but I think the conditions weren't as bad because that was the day after. There was a split in the swim, and not sure what happened to Alex Yee. He only came out about 20 odd seconds behind, so he wasn't too far, but he'd missed the group. There's a group of 5 went away. Now, bearing in mind, he needed to be 6th or better to win the World Championships, regardless of where anybody else came. And so he was in a big pack, and they were just losing time every lap on the bike. The front pack was so strong, and the front pack consisted of Hayden Wilde and Leo Berger, the New Zealand and French guys, who were a threat for the overall title. So Alex had his work cut out on the run. He got in, I think he was a minute and a half behind the 5 leaders. And at the front, Hayden Wilde just left them all. Leo Berger tried to go with him to begin with, and then Hayden just stormed to the win on the day. And Alex G had the run of his life, and he caught up 3 of the front 5. The only one he didn't catch up was Leo Berger and Hayden Wilde. So Alex came 3rd on the day and became world champion overall, which was tremendous. Really good to watch. Really enjoyed it. And it was the final day of racing for 2 of our greats in the sport. GB's Vicky Holland, who's retiring from the sport. It was her last race today, and she did fantastically well, as she has done throughout her career, to be fair. She finished 4th overall with a superb result. And as well as Vicky, Vincent Louis was racing for the last time on the world stage at the sprint and the Olympic distances, because he's going to move on to the longer course, middle distance and possibly Ironman. So yeah, it was quite an emotional afternoon for those guys. I think Vincent was in tears at the end of it, but great ambassador for the sport. He's given us some great racing, really aggressive racing, and he'll be missed. Looking forward to see what he does in the future. And then there was the T100 over there in Las Vegas, and Taylor Knibb dominated that event on the ladies' side from start to finish. She was miles and miles ahead. And in the men's, it was a tough battle from former standard and sprint distance triathletes, Jelle Gaines and Martin van Riel, who hasn't been beaten in a race of this magnitude since he started the distance. And Jelle Gaines, they were together pretty much all the way, and then at the end he just ran away from Martin van Riel, and it was his first race at this distance, and quite a great performance actually. So yeah, some great racing this weekend. Not much left to watch now. I think we've got another Super Tri event to watch, and then that'll be it, done till next year. And everybody will be putting their feet up and planning for next year. And speaking of planning for next year, that's what me and Mrs. C sat down to do. Now we know that she's got the Aquathon team to manage next year for GB Tri, because she's applied and been successful to become a manager, which I'm very proud of. So we had to wait and see what team she was getting and where she'd be going to manage the race, and it turns out she has that team, and they'll be racing in Pamplona, which is northern Spain, best known for the running of the bulls, you know, where all the Spanish dress up in white with red sashes around the waist, and they let the bulls go and they're all running around. So yeah, best known for that. So that's where she'll be heading out to manage the team. So congratulations to Mrs. C, very proud, and I'll be going with her. Bonus. So yeah, so we had to work out our events that we want to race around that really, and so we sat down and done that, and got lots of things to look forward to next year. Exciting races come up. Hopefully I can stay fitter than I have been this year. It won't be very hard. I've just got to be a bit more careful on the running front, and hopefully we'll get to a few more races than I did this year. Couple of podcasts to recommend. I was listening to a Rich Roll podcast, and it was featuring Cam Worth, And Cam is quite an anomaly, really. He's a cyclist. Not sure whether he's a cyclist or a triathlete, to be honest, because he rides for Ineos Grenadiers and he races Ironman, and he's actually going to be in Kona next weekend. Phenomenal athlete, Australian, and it was a really, really good conversation and a good chat, talking about loads of things. And he's a 41-year-old, oldest guy in the peloton, I think, especially the Grand Tour peloton anyway. So that was really, really good. I'd definitely recommend that one. And as I'm always saying that I'm into longevity, I was listening to the Proof podcast with Simon Hill, and it was a podcast on why we age and how to slow it with Venki Ramakrishnan. And basically they were discussing, can we turn back the clock on our biology? They discussed why we age, how we age, and the scientific advancement helping us live longer and healthier lives. So that was really worthwhile listening to. Picked up a few more tips to add to my longevity belt, and I'll be putting them into place. So yeah, couple there for you to have a look at and have a listen to. I hope you enjoy them. So let's get to the main event. I hope you enjoy Ed's story. Like I say, we had a great chat. Really nice guy. He's pretty much done everything there is to do. Hit all the big races, probably apart from Kona. But yeah, really, really great story he's been on. And long may it continue. So we shall see you on the other side. Showing an interest rather in coming on and sharing your story, and hopefully like everybody else that's been on, you'll inspire
Hope so. Yeah.
With your story. So if you'd just like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Ed. I'm 60 years old. I've been doing triathlon since I was 44. And I'm sort of somewhat of a sport Billy all my life. Okay, so as a child, I was quite good at cricket. Parents my dad was quite sporty, played rugby and cricket. So I've always pursued sport, if you like. Yeah. And then a couple of things happened, really. I think, so I played squash at quite a good level, just off county level. I used to play tennis quite well. I used to play cricket for a team, played a little bit of rugby, used to play five-a-side football, not very good at football. Got two sort of disjointed feet, I think. But so I not great at football. I enjoyed playing. And then I got a professional job when I was 30, and I went for an interview with, I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers, the consultancy, when I was 30. And when I went to an interview, the interviewer said to me, so there's a lot of hours in this job. What are you going to sort of do to be able to accommodate the lifestyle? You know, you travel around the world, you know, dispensing pearls of wisdom to people who don't really want to hear it. And I said, I'm going to stop all exercise. This guy, no, that's not what we want, because even back then in the early 90s, it was like, no, we want people to be healthy, and you know, wellness wasn't a thing, but it was a sort of thing in the back of people's minds. And I said, well, I'm not going to do any sport anymore. And they said, no, you can't do that. And then of course you get caught up with work, traveling a lot, and then I had a family. I've got 4 children who are grown up, and I sort of stopped for a while. And I got to the point where, so my rolling weight at the moment is about 80 kilos. I was probably about 90 odd. Yeah. Getting a bit fat, 4 kids, all that sort of stuff. And I thought to myself, when I was younger, I always said I would never stop exercising. That's the first one. I'd always be healthy, fit. And the other was, I was getting fat, and I was looking around the other mums and dads in the playground, and then we all look the same. You know, we've all got a bit of a belly on us and all that sort of stuff. So I thought to myself, I need to do something about it. And I thought back to a friend of mine, Simon Wright was his name. Simon played rugby for England at student level and played for Coventry back in the amateur era. That's like a second tier rugby club. And I used to train with him. I used to do weights and stuff. He was a forward. I couldn't run as quickly as he could. Bizarrely, he was about 17 stone, 6'3", built like a brick, you know, proverbial outhouse. And I struggled to keep up running with him back in the day when I was in my 20s. But what he said to me when I was training with him, he says, I don't know how you do this. I said, what do you mean? He said, I only train for rugby. That's the reason he trained. He said, you're not training anything. And I said, well, it's because I want to look good, and all that, young man in my 20s. And he went, yeah, but I don't get it. I don't know what's motivating you. And when I was in my 40s and I started thinking about changing my diet and eating better, cutting out sugar, not fat, but sugar, yeah, and drinking a bit less and all that sort of stuff, I thought back to what, and I thought, I need a goal. So I was doing a bit of running, wasn't swimming, wasn't cycling, bit of running, bit of weights. And I thought, well, I need a target. And I'd always in the back of my mind, I don't know why, because I played all these other sports, individual sports, team sports. I always thought to myself, I want to do a triathlon. And I think this is a bit like people who think I'm going to do that one marathon or I'm going to, whatever. And I'd always been put off it by the thought of swimming. Yeah, because I could swim a bit, but not very far. But I thought, maybe. And then I didn't do anything about it. And then I went to a PTA school dinner, went along, didn't know, the kid was, one of our children was new to the school, didn't know anybody, got put on the shrugs table, all the people who are just one-offs or just couples. And I sat next to this lady, I can't remember her name. And she told me that she did sprint triathlons. And that was that. Yeah. And I drank loads of beer. I think my wife probably drove us home, all that stuff. And the following morning I got up, went at my computer, and I entered the Nantwich or Northwest Triathlon. And this is back in 2008.
Right.
And I just entered it. And then I thought, how will I get there? Because I thought I can run it because it was a super sprint. So it's like 2.5K run, 250 meter swim and 20K on the bike. I didn't even have a bike. And this is probably February, March. And I just trained myself. And then I bought a bike about 8 weeks before the race.
And how long from you deciding that you were going to race to the actual race?
For 5 or 6 months.
Right. So you give yourself a good shot at it.
Yeah. But I had to go to the swimming pool. Yeah. So I joined a gym with a pool, and I went in the pool, and I remember this, it's a bit like when you first go running, you run where you live and then you think nobody can see me now because I'm going to stop and walk. I swam 3.5 lengths before I had to stop because I was just like, I couldn't breathe. I was full of, sucking in water, all that sort of stuff. And then, and just went from there. And then the bike, I got near the end about 6 weeks out from the race. And then I did the race and I actually thought that was too easy. The bike wasn't brilliant, but I could do it. But but helped by my cardio. But the rest of it, I just thought, oh, that's over now.
Yeah.
And then and then that was September. And then I didn't race again until the following May. But it just it accomplished the goal of, going back to Simon Wright, here's the goal, here's the target, right? I've got that in mind now. I'll train for it and I'll get healthier. Yeah. And broadly, and just going back to the weight thing, when I left uni, I was about 14 stone. I'm just over 6 foot tall. And I'm probably, 12 and a half to 13 stone now as a 60-year-old, and that's got something wrong with me, or I've got some sort of dietary issues. It's just purely because I've been training, you know what I mean? It's
a lifestyle, isn't it? At the end of the day, you're taking care of yourself. The penny's dropped for people. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Actually, if you want not a necessarily longer life, but if you want quality of life for as long as we're on this mortal coil, then you've got to look after yourself. You've got to do the right.
It is about quality of life. Yeah. It's not about extending my life that I do the exercise and race. It's really about just making sure that I am fit and healthy. And I think it's harder as you get older to be fit and healthy, I think. You know what I mean? More things go wrong and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's the goal. But I have to say that I'm quite of a competitive nature.
Yeah.
So I do like racing. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean that just helps, doesn't it? So what happened next then? You'd done your first one, and you said it was too easy. So what did you do to make it a little bit harder the next time?
Yeah. So then what I did was basically enter a whole series of races for the following year with the same company that organises them. So I did the same triathlon again. It runs twice a year. in Nantwich and Cheshire and did a sprint distance race. I did a few of their other races. I do one in Stratford and so on and so forth. So I just started expanding what I was doing because I felt, I think, more confident.
Yeah.
And my training was a bit more consistent, but I wasn't doing a massive amount of volume or anything, but it just sort of, you just get a bit of a passion for it. I thought I really enjoyed that. I like the camaraderie with the people, all that sort of stuff. I feel good about myself. I wasn't, because I think the other one is everybody worries about being last, don't they? I think.
Yes, you do. Yeah, I mean, well, I was going to say you do when you start off. I think you do when you go to age group as well.
Yeah.
You think, well, if it's your first one, you think, well, as long as I'm not last, I really don't care.
But
I remember having that feeling.
Yeah, but I've spoken to loads of people and they go, when I'm trying to sort of convince people to give it a go, and lots of people, you do that. I said, well, why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? And they, if you do it, I'll do it with you and all that sort of stuff. And loads of people are really worried about coming last. And I'm just saying, there's no way.
Yeah.
No way you'll be last. There's always going to be some people who will finish behind you because they'll get injured during the race, or they'll have a bike mechanical or whatever, or they just didn't train at all. So I said, you've got no worries about being last. And in fact, when I was in my corporate career, when I was working for a company called Exchanging, I was running a business and had a sort of away day with all the staff. And I said to them, who fancies doing this then? I've got about 7 or 8 people to give it a go. And it was quite funny because I did the Nantwich Triathlon with them. And one of them, when he came out of the water, was bothered about transition and leaving his gear. So he went back to his car to get fully changed.
I've never heard that before. That's a new one on me.
So it took him like 2 hours because he had to go to his car and lock his car, get his kit, change his gear, all that sort of, dry himself down, and then.
Did he not realise that there's probably other people there with a lot better gear than he had, and they're going to nick that first if anything was going to go?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, quite funny, So so I think then from there my career is just a gradual progression, because I think that what happens is you do sprint triathlon, you do a few more, you start to think, oh, I see the Olympic triathlon on telly, I see the Brownlees, all that sort of stuff, and you think, well, I could probably do that, with a bit of, I might be not very good at it, I might come well down the field, but yeah, I'm training in the pool, I think I can swim a mile, I think I can cycle 40k, all that sort of stuff, I can run 10 because of the way your training is going. So I've just gradually progressed and just, up to it. And then I think you start to realize that you're not going to be last, and that and I monitor everything, I track everything, and I've got this big spreadsheet that goes back to when I first started training. You start to look at your position relative to the rest of the field, and you realize that you've got maybe a slight edge on a lot of the people. Not, you're not coming first, but maybe you're in the top, 20%. And then I started setting myself a goal of, I want to be at least in the top quarter and then the top 20%. And then later you start thinking about trying to win your age group and that sort of stuff. But I think it just crept up on me. So 2008, do the first super sprint. By 2012, I did my first half Ironman distance, and it was horrendous. Just horrendous. It was just like, this is so hard. I had no coach, so I was self-tutored. I wasn't following any methodology. I read Triathlon.
T220, is it?
Yeah, 220. So I was reading that, and you pick up. I did my first half, which was not an Ironman branded, just a local race with the same people who do the Northwest Triathlon I mentioned earlier. And then it took me about 6.5 hours. Yeah. And I just thought, yeah, this is rubbish. But then I thought, I wasn't last. I did okay relative to the field. It wasn't the most pleasant of courses and all that sort of stuff, a bit wet and cold and all that sort of stuff. But I thought, well, I've done this. Maybe I could do an Ironman. And maybe if I did a few more halves, I could get better at that. And then you start to think, well, maybe if I had a coach, that would help. Yeah. And if I had a bit of structure to what I'm doing, rather than just going for a run, not realizing that you can go and do lots of runs slowly, and you can do some interval runs and so on and so forth. And so by 2014, I did my first full distance Ironman race called the Bastion. which is run by the Castle Series. I did it in its inaugural year, but it's a funny one, isn't it? Really, I think that your sort of confidence grows as you do more. You get a bit fitter, and your training extends a bit. You do a bit longer distances and all that sort of stuff. And then the other one is I had the good fortune in 2014 to be introduced to a guy called Harry Wiltshire. So Harry was part of the crew, the Brownlee's group, training group.
Yeah.
He was a professional Ironman athlete. He's still about the second or third fastest English chap at Kona. He came 10th, but it was the year McNamee came second, I think, and beat the British record. So I was introduced to Harry. Like many Ironman athletes, they're impoverished. Yeah, getting by on a shoestring. And so Harry agreed to coach me. And that was the eye-opener, really. It was an eye-opener in two ways, really. One is training and having structure to what I was doing. And I trained 7 days a week. I didn't like a day off, so I did something every day. And so one was that structure and the process. And the other one, being a sort of tourist, voyeuristic tourist, is I saw a different world, of professional athletes. And that was that was a real highlight for me, because Harry, when he was first coaching me, he came to see me at my house, and I was like a child. It was like, oh my God, I got a professional athlete come into the house. What do I feed him? What do I do? And of course, he's just a really centered, as you know, if you meet pro athletes and people as you do through racing, it was like, yeah, just a normal bloke, really, but obviously incredibly fast.
They have that pedestal, don't they? And it's like, if you're really into watching it and supporting it as a fan, like myself and my wife are, we watch everything. Then they're just like,
all right.
They're just up there. The gods, they are, what they can do. And we love it. We love it.
Yeah, it's really funny, because I'd sort of speak to him, I see him occasionally. I've been up to Leeds, where he was based, with Alistair and Johnny, and met Alistair and Johnny with him. And you're all a bit like, oh my God, like, wow, and then sort of in that, but it's quite nice, because it's one of the few sports where you do get that crossover, don't you? You race alongside professional athletes. Okay, they smash, they're miles ahead of you, but nonetheless, you don't really get, professional cycling, you would never get that, obviously football, rugby and all that, you couldn't, so.
It's one of the few sports where you're absolutely right. And we've said this before, that you actually race on the same course with them sometimes, if it's a longer distance, if it's the Olympic distance or the sprint distance, like, for example, the World Championships this weekend over in Malaga. You'll be there, you'll be racing your race, and then you'll be watching them do their race on the same course. And you're right, there isn't any other sport that I can think of that.
And that is, and the fact that most of the athletes are really approachable. So you think of all the conversations you've had, or I think having a chat with Nikki Bartlett, who, the female, professionals race at Lanzarote. I saw her out on the run course while I was out running, and then I came in and she was about. So when I had a chat with her after the race, it's quite bizarre.
I mean, speaking of Nikki Bartlett, I follow her on Instagram and often drop her a good look and stuff. Always responds. Always responds. She's just like, really approachable. And
I like I said, I've talked to her at races, and then I do the same as you do. I comment, through her ups and downs, racing, and then obviously the excitement of Nice recently, where she was fifth, wasn't it? I follow all that. I love it. She's really approachable. Harry, for instance, the guy who was coaching me now, who's now retired, he wasn't very good on social media, so he was very focused on what he was doing and didn't really spend a lot of time doing that sort of stuff.
It was a different time, though. I mean, now it's part of it's what they've got to do to make themselves a household brand, because that's what they are. Because, like you said earlier, the money that these athletes get up until maybe the last 2-3 years, 5 years maybe, when Super Leagues come in and T100s come in, the money now is available for them. Before, it was non-existent. They were living hand to mouth. They did it because they loved doing it. It wasn't, they couldn't really make a living out of it. you know.
No, I don't. Well, I don't think Harry was. I think, yeah, I won't go into detail, but once or twice I talked to him and asked him about how much money he was making, and it was
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
rubbish. He was really sort of having to scrape by, and he obviously went to Hawaii a few times for for the Ironman World Championships, and it was on a sort of shoestring. You know what I
Well,
mean?
they're
It
in
was,
debt. They're in debt.
yeah,
A lot of them come back and they've like, because they haven't hit, I think it was the top 10 or something. And
yeah,
if
yeah,
they haven't hit the top 10, they're in debt, a lot of them. And that's like serious money to be out there for the amount of time that they need to be out there. Weeks beforehand. It's just crazy. I
yeah.
remember
No, it is. Yeah,
Max Stapley, I listened to him a few times on some of the podcasts, and he said, it's cost him to be a professional
all
triathlete.
right.
It's cost him money to actually do the sport. But like I said, I think now, because there's a lot more availability to them, I think they're getting a bit, they're getting the money that they deserve, really. Well, probably not even yet, but
Yeah.
money's improved.
Yeah, I think I had a conversation with Harry about that one stage, and there was, I think it's linked to doping, and he said his comment back to me was that, if you're 40th or 50th in the world at Ironman, but you're trying to make a career out of it and you're trying to earn money, then is it any surprise that people would dope? Because it becomes a means of to create income. You know what I mean? I'm not condoning or anything. And he fought quite a high profile case because he's now a barrister to
All
try and
right.
defend against doping. But he was saying, yeah, but if you're not that good, but you're trying to make money, then you can understand why people do cheat, because they're trying to make money, they're trying to get sponsors, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's another matter, really, isn't it? I think.
Yeah,
But
it can go off on a whole new tangent
yeah.
there. which
So
which sometimes
yeah.
happens on this podcast. Well, it's just such a wide varied sport, isn't it? That you can go down any sort of rabbit hole you like, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Could start talking about bike tech and all that, couldn't you? That would be, yeah.
Oh, don't start that.
So going back to the thing. So I did my first Ironman, the Bastion, in 2014, and I came third in the over 50s. And I was like, oh Lord, wow, I can't believe it. I'm on the podium. And it was the first one I'd ever done. And this is a bit akin. When I was a student, we had a Sportsman of the Year award. We each picked a sport, 10 blokes, right, when we finished. And one of the guys was a good golfer, and he picked golf. And we played 9 holes. I'd never played golf before, other than pitch and putt and stuff. Never played on a real course. And I parred the 9th, which was a par 5. It was just absolute luck. And I think that maybe the Bastion was a bit like that, because then you go into the Ironman circuit and start racing full distance Ironman races in Europe, as I did. And trying to get on the podium is so tough. The times that people do in your age group are just unbelievable. Even when you're older, I've been racing in my late 50s, and some of the times were just frightening. That people, and you think, how the hell do I emulate that? But yeah, so I did the Bastion, absolutely killed me. Came third in the over 50s, and just then you get a taste, don't you? You just think, I've got to do this. This isn't a one-off. I'm going to do more of these. And even though I got loads of grief from my wife and youngish family at that point, or younger family, I just thought, no, I've got to do this. I've got to do a full Ironman. So the same season as doing the Bastion in July, then I went to Barcelona and did Barcelona for the first time. It is the most emotional experience you can have. First up Ironman, you sit in a tent on the beach, and the bloke stands at the front, Paul Kay in this case, and basically tells you, now in the zone, you're in the athlete's zone. You're like in tears. You're like, your hackles on your back of your neck are going up. And then I did Ironman Barcelona and smashed my target against the time I was hoping to get, and I cried as I went over the line.
Yeah, but it's a big investment, isn't it? Like you've just said, much to the detriment of other things, because you're spending so much time training, putting the work in to do that. It is emotional.
Yeah, no, but it was like, I took my son came out with me, my wife didn't, and just my eldest son. And I was like weeping like a child, not as a child, as an adult, but weeping as I went over the line. It was just like, I can't believe I've done this. It's like such a proud moment. The Bastion's lower key. Barcelona's got 2,500 people racing. It's the whole rah-rah and all that sort of stuff was just off the scale. And then, it's like the other races, you sort of, the camaraderie, the taste of it inspired me, and I think inspires lots of other people to do it again.
Yeah.
And you get excited about it, and then you start to think, well, I can do that. I've done 2 now. I can do them. Now it's a matter of what time can I do them in, and how can my training change, and where can I go? So I've done lots of races outside of the UK, mainly in mainland Europe, and it's just such a buzz. That's the thing. It's not even about podiuming or qualifying for Hawaii or whatever, for the Ironman World Championships. It's just the whole experience is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Same as people doing their first ever half marathon, I suppose, running, or doing the London Marathon for some people. It's just such a great feeling doing it. I mean, it hurts while you're doing it, doesn't it? But, and you do wonder sometimes why you're doing it while you're out there. But then at the end, you're like, well, that's all forgotten now. This is awesome,
Where do I sign up for the next one?
Yeah. So from there, I went to, one is I thought, could I qualify for Kona? Could I get near enough? I think I came to the realization in the end, I can't, because I just can't make the top 3. And I think if I chose my race, I've got a friend who qualified for Kona in Taiwan. I think if you pick the right race, I possibly could have, maybe not, I don't know. But the bigger marquee events, the talent is so good. And that comes back to that age group stuff for GB. It didn't cross my mind because I thought, well, I'm not really good. Am I good enough to get to this?
So just going back to that then, after you'd done your Ironmans, how did you get involved in it? How did you first find out about age group?
Playing around on the website for British Triathlon, just messing about on it and looking at it. And with my coach, Harry, I'd never really discussed it with him, or we touched on it, then it was forgotten about. So he never really said, because when I entered my result from Lanzarote to BTF, and I qualified, he was like, oh, what, that's what you wanted? I said, yeah, well, to race for GB. You've done it loads of times. I did want to do it, but I think there was no real trigger in my mind that got me to think about it, to find it. I just was playing around on the website, and then I found the bit about Ironman distance. There's no qualification races, so that makes it even a bit more complicated. Yeah. But it had criteria, and it said basically we'll consider you if you're within 20% of the winner. Yeah. And I thought, I've just done Lanzarote. I had my best race ever. When I look back at what I wrote at the time on social media and stuff, it's an early season race. You have to train all through winter for it. Came off that race, and I just thought that's as good as I'll ever get. You know what I mean? It was like, it went really well.
And it's a tough one as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, it was ticking the box. Going back to doing races and stuff. I thought, I've got to do Lanza to experience it, and me and a mate did it, and because it's brutal, it's hot, it's windy, it's really hilly. Yeah. It was in the 30s for the run. You get your sunburn, you get burnt through your suit, all that sort of stuff. It was the last time they did a mass start on the swim, which you just never. I'm fairly tough skinned, if you like, or boisterous, but jumping in the water with all the other people, dearie me, it was just horrendous. But
washing machine.
Yeah, it was just getting hit, punched, kicked, and nowhere to go. You know what I mean? You had to roll with it, but I think my first lap was 2 or 3 minutes slower than my second lap on the swim because it Australian exit. But yeah, I did that. And then having done Lanza, I thought, I've done well here in relation to the winner. Therefore, maybe there's an opportunity here. And I applied thinking, it's a tenner or something you got to pay. And I thought, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't, but there must be loads of other people out there who are brilliant and all that sort of stuff. And lo and behold, I got the queue against my name, and I was so made up.
Yeah.
It's just like the whole
special feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, just really cool. And then because as a kid, I was sporty, and the whole thought was always, could I represent GB at something? And I was never good enough, so that's the pinnacle, you know what I mean? And doing that. And then I went out to Almere in 2019, same year as I did Lanza. because I was also late in applying. Went out to Almere, and in between times I did Roth.
Oh yeah, you've done Roth.
Yeah,
Another tough.
another race to make you cry. And I went out to Almere, and all my family came. Friends of my kids came
Wow.
and cheered me on. I didn't have a great race. I felt ill on the run. I felt a bit disappointed with myself that I hadn't done what I felt I could do. And I went out for a meal after the race, and it's still all light, so it's a reasonable time and all that sort of stuff. And they're like, they made me feel better
Yeah.
because they're all like, oh my God, how have you done that? God, you know,
Yeah.
and all that. You know, one of my son's mates gave me a little gold cup,
Yeah.
or you know, and all that. So it was sort of just a great feeling. You know, and the camaraderie in the team, the photograph with the team, with the Yun Jack and all that. And then Verity, I can't remember her surname, from British Triathlon, she gives you a flag to take over the line with you and all that sort of stuff. And it's just immense. It's
Yeah.
just, there's sort of, there's, there's other feelings that are as good, like your children being born or them succeeding or whatever. But it's such a fantastic feeling, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And it's not that hard to qualify.
Yeah.
I think quite a lot of longer distance triathletes perhaps don't choose to do it because they're aiming on for Kona or whatever,
Yeah.
or they don't think about it, or the cost is prohibitive of going, you know, another race and all that sort of stuff and going abroad and such like. But yeah, everybody should do it.
I think that's right. It depends on, I think you say it's not hard to qualify. I think it depends on one, your ability.
Yeah.
Also, it depends on who else is in your age group and their ability, because that's, you know, also how many are in your age group, numbers wise, because that can be horrendous at certain age groups. And
Yes.
it's usually between 40 and 60, in my experience, that that you know they've got the biggest numbers.
Yeah.
But it's all those factors, and like we were alluding to before we started rolling, about it being quite technical, and you've got to be quite smart. If you're not one of the top who'll just go and qualify outright or whatever, then you've got to be quite tactical about how you go about trying to qualify, in my experience.
Yeah. I think with the stuff that are hosted in the UK, so anything up to Olympic distance, I think they have qualification events, but I think for half Ironman and full distance Ironman, they don't.
Yeah.
So I think that probably makes it harder for people to think about how they qualify, and I think that probably makes it respectively a little bit easier if you are racing at those distances. There's still the criterion, there's still a roll down and all the rest of it, but I think that there's more of an opportunity, and as you say, maybe with age it gets better. But I did the 50 to 59 age group for the stuff I've done until what I did next. But so I've raced Ironman for GB twice, because doing it once wasn't enough for me. I had to do it twice to prove it wasn't a luck that I qualified, because that's the way my brain works. And I did the World Championships at Ironman distance in 2021.
Where was that at?
That was Almere again.
Almere again.
Yeah, they couldn't get anybody because of COVID.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a letter of authority from the Netherlands Olympic Committee, which is going to be framed on my wall at some point. It makes you look like an Olympian, that I could go to the border control or whatever in Holland when I got off the ferry. I could show them that to say that I didn't have to, hide away for 2 weeks in my hotel. That I was allowed to roam around. You know, I did have to do loads of COVID tests.
Yeah.
And all that. And I had to COVID test before I got on the ferry and all that. So yeah, I did it twice. And then I thought, that's the end of Ironman for me. I've done the World Championships. I've done 11 races at Ironman. And I started to lose the love a bit.
Yeah.
Because of the training and also because of what you go through in the race. And so I sort of thought, that's it, I'll bow out there.
Well, it's a big, like we said before, isn't it? It's a big commitment to training.
Yeah.
Primarily, I guess you train on your own, a lot of it.
All of it.
All of it,
Yeah, because you can't. I belong to a triathlon club. I dropped from that a couple of years ago, but I belong to a triathlon club, and I couldn't. They wanted me sort of some of the time to train with them. If you talk to other people who are doing
yeah.
but I couldn't because the sort of volume and distance I'm doing didn't really work. I didn't want to go out and ride for 30K. I want to go and ride for 150K or whatever, 100K or whatever. So it didn't really work. And also with, busy life, it's difficult to fit with training sessions.
Yeah.
So you do it when you can. I think, you get up early on a whatever morning and you think, right, I'll go and do something and be a bit more impromptu about it, I think, but yeah.
I think that's normal for the longer distances, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So it is a bit lonely. And it is better riding with other people, isn't it? But you have no choice. So did that twice. And then what I thought to myself was, I need to do something else for GB. So this year I did the middle distance duathlon Euro Championships. I qualified several years ago, but nowhere in the world was hosting the race.
Ah.
So I qualified in 20. I had a race in 22 as a qualification race, and then there wasn't a duathlon middle distance in 23, so it wasn't held until this year in Ohlsdorf in Germany. So I drove over there and did that, and it was the same thing really. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do a different sport, a slightly different sport. That's a bit.
Yeah.
I'm pushing the boundaries of truthfulness here because it's pretty similar. Just again to show to myself I could do it. It's a sort of competition with myself. So I went out there and did that, and then I think I've qualified for the World Championships at duathlon. I've got an injury which I'm not sure whether I'll even be ready for next April to do it. So I'm sort of mulling that over. But the bigger plan, this is the crazy bit, was to think about whether I could race for GB in 3 different events. So, and this might make you smile, might make your listeners smile. I've done a full genetic test. My wife and I got them a couple of years ago, and it gives everything you could possibly think of. And basically it says in my genetic test that I'm much better suited to short distance sprinting.
That was hilarious. Well, that is a positive, isn't it? Because you've got all the long stuff out the way now.
Yes.
Now you can not train as hard or as long, not necessarily hard, but not train as long. Be more sociable with a club and be it your best fitness in something that you're better at.
Yeah, well, I actually bizarrely thought I need to change athletic discipline completely, and I thought I wonder if I could qualify it to short distance running. Like 100 or 200, but I don't know what the competition's like. I imagine this. I've seen bits of video of people in their 50s who are originally professional sprinters, and you just think, I don't think I could run 100 meters in 11 seconds. But I don't know. Crazy ideas cross your mind, don't they?
They're a different breed, though, aren't they? I mean, we've had a few we had one lady, she's a Commonwealth runner, 10K and half, and she's doing age group now, and she's still phenomenal. It's a different, the genetically blessed, that ability,
But I do think, don't think, Rich, that sort of, if you follow the process, everybody talks about process. What's process? It's following a training regime. If you do that, you'll do a lot more than you think you can, I think.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
You know what I mean? And obviously, if you're genetically blessed, yes, you're going to be that bit quicker. But there's so much in the discipline of the training and consistent training.
Isn't it, consistency?
Yeah. I think big time. When I used to chat to Harry about all sorts of stuff when he was coaching me, and he reckoned that pretty much anybody, not somebody who's 60, but people of a sort of in their 20s, 30s, 40s. He reckoned most people could get down to 35 minutes for a 10K trained properly. The issue is getting down under 30 minutes, and that's where the genetics plays a role, and maybe putting up with a lot of pain, I think, and a lot of challenges in your training and stuff. But he thought that most people biologically could run that fast. Obviously, as long as they've not got something slightly wrong with them, or whatever. But yeah. So I sort of tick the boxes really in terms of doing 2 different sports, doing the for GB, soaking up that whole atmosphere and all that, and then as part of that process of getting there, I've done a few like blue ribbon races. So like I mentioned this before, anybody who does long distance triathlon, Ironman distance, do Roth.
Yeah.
You have to do Roth. It's the greatest experience that you can have as an amateur athlete. And I think Hawaii is probably good, and it's the World Championships for the Ironman brand. But Roth is supported by 250,000 people.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? The support that it gets is just, I don't know anything else like it.
Oh, I tell you, you know, you go up Solarberg twice or Solar, this hill, and the crowd is 6 or 7 people deep on each side, and there's just you. People have seen the pictures. To do it, there is nothing like it. It's like as if you're on the Tour de France or something.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a professional cyclist. They're patting you on the back, shouting, you know, in the most lovely way. And then for the whole of the bike course, so it's 2 laps, there's people in villages having parties with trestle tables that they sit behind looking at you going by. It's just unbelievable. It's like I say, most of us never get the chance to be a professional athlete, and that's about as close as you can get, I think. So I've done it twice.
Yeah, cool.
Because it's so good, and it's, you know, challenging race to do because you get up about 3 or 4 in the morning and all that sort of stuff. You can't stay near to the start line and that, but it's yeah, phenomenal. Yeah.
Is that your favorite race that you've done then?
Yeah, by a country mile. Yeah. Lanzarote, I didn't like. I got to about 60k on the bike. I'm looking at the azure blue sea and just thinking to myself, why the hell am I doing this? But I had a great race, remember? It went well and all that. But I just thought, this is so brutal and so hard. But Roth, it's just such an uplifting experience. You know, it's just great people. And the Germans love triathlon.
Yeah.
And they're very, very welcoming. And then when you're on the run, people are trying to get you to drink beer and all this sort of stuff, you know, trestle tables in the town and all that sort of stuff. And then when you finish, they wash your feet.
Wow.
In the finishing tent, which is really weird. You go in there and there's ladies wandering around generally with buckets of water saying, would you like to soak your feet and we'll wash your feet? And then when you're coming off the bike, I had 2 women, basically you come in, they take your bike away, you go into the changing area, and I had two women went, got my stuff for me, put my rancid shoes, I changed my socks, I think, all that. They took all that away, put it in my bag, sorted me out, put suntan lotion on. Just
different. Well,
yeah, if Carlsberg did a race, you know.
Yeah, brilliant.
So yeah, great, just great.
Yeah. So where are you at the moment then? What you're doing? What's your plans? Because you just talked about doing duathlon.
So
is that where you're going to stay?
I've got a bit of a back issue which I'm dealing with. What I'm mulling over, because I've got an issue that's affecting my running at the moment, is whether I might switch to aquabike.
Yeah.
And do swim bike racing. Yeah. So I'm just trying to find out what's wrong with my back, because I've had a lot of grief from it for quite a long time now. Not trying to put your listeners off in terms of what ravages of racing and time do to you. But
we get older, we get injured. It's part
of
it.
Yeah. So I've just got a bit of wear and tear on my back, I think. So lower back, which is creating a bit of sciatica in my legs. So what I'm starting to think about is swim bike. But swimming is my weakest discipline. Running is my strongest discipline. Obviously, bike in the middle. But I coach somebody just as a freebie to them who are a proper athlete. They competed for GB at water polo and went to the Commonwealth Games. Phenomenal swimmer, absolutely awesome swimmer. And my swimming is the weakest discipline. So I've been talking to him about whether he might coach me to try and get my speed up a bit, because my endurance is good enough. My catch isn't good enough, I think. So I'm also thinking about, the sprinting bit aside, because I don't think I'll be good enough at that, but is whether to do aquabike. It's a bit more of a rarity. Less people do it, I think, because, Yeah. So that's what I was thinking about. Maybe that's where I go, but it's nice to have a bit of variety, really, isn't it? I think, and you get so much, endurance and, because of all the training I've done over the years, that it makes a lot of those things sort of easy, relatively straightforward to do. Because of the base that you've got. So, for example, I did an ultra marathon last September around Lake Windermere, which is lots of elevation, 75k. I didn't train for it, but it was sort of like because you've done so much endurance work,
Yeah,
it was, my legs didn't really work afterwards, but during the race, I was absolutely fine. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's fringe benefits, aren't there? You can sort of turn your mind or your body towards other things, I think, relatively easily because I've been doing it for so long, I think.
I think both mentally and physically, that base that you've got and built over all the years, it's
Yeah.
it's great, isn't it, to have, like you've just
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, so that's sort of where I am really. I think what I've done.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, it's a really, really great journey that you've been on. To have done all those Ironmans and raced several times for GB as well in the middle of it. It's making memories, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
As well as
Yeah.
helping you as we're all getting older and staying fit. Like we said earlier, it's the lifestyle, isn't it, that you just want to continue doing. So
Yeah. And it goes back to that goal thing, you have to have a goal in life, don't you? Whatever your interest is or your passion is. So I think for me, to keep fit and keep healthy, I needed a goal, and that was racing. And then when I started racing, it just sort of takes over a bit, And I must say, I've had bits of grief from my wife and things, and my kids to an extent about it, because you go out on Saturday morning to cycle for 6 hours, and then you come back and you don't want to do anything and all that sort of stuff. But they've come to accept it.
Yeah, well, it is part of who you are, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I've always been like that. Always been competitive, always sporty. So not that that's a prerequisite. I don't think you don't have to be sporty. I just that's how I was as a kid, as a young man.
Cool.
Yeah,
well,
so.
I'd say great story. Thank you for sharing that. I've got a few quick fire questions, and then I shall let you go and enjoy the rest of the evening. And the first one is, as always, what's your favourite bit of kit?
My bike.
Yeah, that's the favourite answer.
She's beautiful.
What have you got?
I've got a Scott Plasma Race Edition tri-bike.
Nice.
I love it. It's perfect. It's just, if I stopped racing, I don't think I'd get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's black and it's a thing of beauty. And it runs Zip 808s, 404s, etc. DI2. I'm just, on the bars, I'm snug. I feel really comfortable. I don't have to practice down on the bars a lot because it's so comfortable. It sits on my turbo most of the year, and I take it out, in fine weather and like with a fine sports car, But
yes, yeah.
But yeah, no, I love her.
Good. Yeah, sounds perfect. Sounds perfect. What resources do you use for your training? You say you've got a coach and you're part of a club. What other resources would you use?
So I used to be on Train Excel, and that's what Harry used. Pardon?
Yeah.
So yeah, I used Train Excel, and then more recently, I still use Train Excel to keep a record of what I've done, but my current coach uses Training Peaks. Yeah. But he's asked if I wanted a membership, and I said no. I said, I just view it, see what he set me, and then I do it. So Training Peaks seems pretty good, but I sort of, and it's much more sophisticated than Train Excel, but I like Train Excel. It's what I've always used. You know what I mean? It's familiar.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah. So, but it's just a means to an end for me. It's just a place to set online what I need to do that day. And generally, I don't really look at it much ahead. I look that day and think, right, that's the bike set. Right, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. That's all you need, isn't it? Takes all the planning out, especially if you've got a coach. Yeah. It's what they're there for, isn't it? It just takes all the planning.
You don't have to think. Yeah, you don't have to think about it. It's quite interesting because my current coach, Stuart Fisher.
I know Stuart, you've been on the podcast.
Oh, right, there you go. So Stuart's, great. GB. I think he's
amazing.
Yeah. So, and he's just been down to Australia recently and came second, I think, in his age group. So I've got Stuart. He's got a very different method to what Harry used to give me, and that's that. A lot more of Stuart's training is low intensity, low heart rate type stuff. Never really had that with Harry. I used to have more me running generally at a comfortable sort of tempo-ish pace, and then sometimes doing a bit faster, out and backs, that type of stuff, track work, that type of stuff. I think Stuart's probably a lot more technically minded in the way that he coaches me, but both methods work, I think.
Good.
And
Well, as long as you're enjoying it, that's all that
yeah,
matters.
I do. Yeah,
Enjoy the training.
it's all a challenge. I like the challenge each time I look at the program. I think, all right, okay.
Excellent. So are you training still at the moment?
I'm not running. I'm just swimming and cycling.
Yeah. And what does a week of training look like at the moment then?
7 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
So, bike Monday, Wednesday, sometimes Friday, and then Saturday longer bike. Yeah, because the weekend you can go out for 3 hours or whatever, and then swimming, because of the duathlon, I've got back pretty much to once or twice a week, always on a Friday morning, and then occasionally open water on Sundays, because I've developed a skins swimming habit in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So I swim at least once a month in a local lake called Whitmore Lakes. I'm making an advert for them because I've only just started and know the owner and stuff. So on the weekend on Sunday, I went in just my trunks in 10 degrees. And that was started on Boxing Day. So I started in December last year and set myself a goal of once a month. I'll go in skins.
Yeah.
And actually through the summer, or since then, I've never worn a wetsuit in the water.
Well, it's supposed to be good for you, isn't it? Cold.
Apparently, it does make you feel a bit strange, but yes, yeah. It's Rich, it's better. It's better in the winter. In the summer, when I was swimming in there, it's 19, 20 degrees. I thought, it's not doing anything for me. But when you go in when it's 5 degrees, it really invigorates you. I'm quite a convert. I think I'm going to carry on doing it forever.
Well, there is supposed to be method behind the madness.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for masochist maybe.
Yeah,
it's for masochist.
Not my cup of tea, but there you go. I like the sauna. And finally, your shorter and your longer term goals. I guess short term goals you've already discussed a little bit, but
short term goal, represent GB again, I think. Whether in duathlon or whether in aquabike.
Yeah.
And then keep racing. I want to do it as long as I can. So if I get, I think the thing that's more likely to become an issue in time is running. But I think cycling and swimming, I'll just try and do as long as I can. So if I'm doing it in my 80s or 90s, I've taken a lot of notice of, when you see people on TV who are about 90 and they're out cycling every day with their buddies and that's where I want to be. Yeah. Not, because I think if you're moving and exercising, it's stimulating your system and therefore holding back on wear and tear, or helping to repair your body, keeping your bone density high, all that sort of stuff, all the stuff that's published scientifically. So no, I want to try and carry on as long as I can. But there are limitations, aren't there? I think,
Yeah, there are. But I think, like we've said before, because you've got the mindset and you've got the base, other than injuries, you've still got that mentality to do it. It's part of your lifestyle now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, when I've been injured, I don't know, you must be the same. I miss it.
I've been injured for the last 18 months and
Right.
to run, and I miss it so much. And I just got back and I was doing really well in it. I got another slight twinge at the track on Saturday.
Yeah.
But then the beauty of the sport is that you can do the other two. You can do swimming and you can do the biking. So, it's all's not lost. You've just got to work around it, haven't you?
I think so. But yeah, I just want to carry on, really. I like the feeling of being fit. And I think it has a knock-on effect in so many other ways. Like you've got more energy through the day. 100%. If you work, I've got more energy than lots of people who are younger than me when I'm working, later in the day and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's just because your body's stimulated, you know what I mean? And you feel good.
Yeah.
That's simple, isn't it?
And who wants to feel crap?
Yeah.
Well, thank you ever so much for your time and your story. I've really, really enjoyed chatting to you. Could carry on for another hour at least. Good job we didn't really get onto bikes, but yeah. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Nice to meet you.
It was great to chat to Ed. Really enjoyed his journey. Phenomenal what he's done. And I hope you did too. If you're an age grouper and you would like to come on and share your story and inspire others, just like I'm sure Ed's going to do when this goes out, please do get in touch. You can email us at agegroupmultisportpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Instagram at amp_1967, so you could DM us there. Facebook, we're at ampgb. You can also DM us there. And we are on X at Agegroup Multisport Podcast. And we've got our own YouTube channel, ampgb, where there's loads of videos of some athletes. We tried to get athletes to send in videos, and it started off okay, but it's sort of like died out now. People are just too busy, I guess. But I put videos up there of what I've been up to, so it's like a bit of a vlog from me now. So yeah, go along there. All the other podcasts are on there as well, little shorts. So head over there, give us some support, sign up, subscribe to our channel. That would be much appreciated. And if you could just get the message out to all your like-minded friends, like I said earlier, and tell them that we're here and we've got all these fantastic stories to listen to. And they're great for if you're working, like I do. I listen to podcasts all the time. Or if you're on the turbo, or if you're out walking the dog, podcasts are a great thing to listen to. So, yeah, give us some support and it would be much appreciated. And that's it for this episode. Thank you once again. And don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.